Kyle Krabs and Brentley Weissman of the Draft Network, and we're here to talk about Lamar Jackson. The unanimous 2019 NFL MVP is finding life a little bit tougher in 2020. The Ravens at 6-4 ahead of Thursday night's game, pending any COVID issues for the Baltimore Ravens with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Brentley, this Baltimore team is hanging on to their playoff lives here, and they're really on the fringe of the AFC playoff picture with the Steelers looming as the next game on the schedule. When you think about Baltimore and what they were last year and what we're seeing from them this year, what stands out the most to you as far as the disconnect between who they were and who we're seeing now?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I think it starts up front with their offensive line. Last year they had one of the best offensive lines in the entire NFL, and you saw that with their ability to run the football. This year, while the stats may say they're running the football at a similar rate, you put on the tape, this offensive line's getting beat up and banged around. Specifically, really, when in the passing, in terms of pass blocking, Lamar has no time to throw the football. I think with Marshall Yonda retiring, Ronnie Stanley suffering a season-ending leg injury. Their rookie guard, I think his name is Tyree Phillips. He had a hand injury. Then Matt Skura, the center, and he got benched last week. This is offensive line that, save for Orlando Brown, is just not performing well in 2020. And I think that's hurt them in the run game. It's definitely hurt them in the passing game. And this is not the same unit that we saw last year.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is you think about the bigger picture of a team building perspective and the decision to trade Hayden Hurst and Marshall Yanda's retirement. And this Ravens team, they made so much of their damage last year coming from these multiple tight end sets, and they chose to elevate Nick Boyle into that role. And then Nick Boyle has a devastating knee injury, and he's out for the season now too. So you take the injuries along the offensive line, the retirement of Marshall Yanda, and I think people kind of maybe underestimate the impact that these peripheral players relative to who the star names and the headliners are in this offense, those absences are weighing heavily, in my opinion, on Baltimore being able to have the same efficiency doing the same things that they tried to do last year.
And really the issue is they don't have the personnel on this offense to try to adapt and change it up. They are pigeonholed into this kind of scheme, in this type of play style. And with the injuries to the offensive line, the injury to the Nick Boyle, the lack of, perimeter receivers on the outside, they are really stuck. They are stuck between a rock and a hard place right now. And listen, I know everyone's killing Lamar Jackson. He isn't playing well. I'm not going to sit here and try to say he's not playing well. He's not playing well. I understand it. But the Ravens really haven't surrounded him with many options to catch the football. I mean, listen, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, I like him. But for what Lamar needs, he needs, and I wrote about this for the Draft Network, I think in week 3 after their loss to Kansas City. They need a receiver that can, make contested catches, can really be, as I think you or someone said, an accuracy kind of eraser, right? Yeah. Where Lamar's never going to be the pinpoint accuracy thrower. And that's okay. But you can't have a 5'11", 5'10" Marquise Brown be your number one threat then. That's just, especially when you have pass protection to allow him to run go routes. That's just not going to work. And so they need to address the receiver position to allow their offensive to have some flexibility and to adapt. I mean, right now, Des Bryant that's their guy right now. Outside of Marquise Brown is Des Bryant.
I was waiting for Des Bryant to come up here.
That's not going to cut it, man. They need to go out and sign Allen Robinson. They need to draft, a receiver in the first, Rashad Bateman, a guy who can make contested catches. Just the answer is not on the roster right now.
Bateman's a really exciting option for me when you think about what they do at Minnesota and how physical they are, but yet they do a lot of RPO with glance slants going into the middle of the field. And Bateman, I think, can be that guy and would make a lot of sense. But I agree with you. I think as far as where they go from here, they have some flexibility, which is nice. They have invested a fair amount recently into the interior offensive line between Ben Powers out of Oklahoma was a mid-round guy. Tyree Phillips was another mid-round guy this past year for them. They've invested some at wide receiver with some mid-round picks between Miles Boykin and James Prochet and Devin Duvernay, but like you need some foundational pieces to replace the ones you lost. So that for Baltimore is, okay, are we going to prioritize interior offensive linemen and get our swagger back on the offensive line to punch you in the mouth? Do we want an accuracy eraser? Because right now, teams are going to stuff the middle, and they're going to dare you to throw outside the numbers. And until you can consistently prove that you can do it, and right now, like you said, they don't have a lot of optional or personnel options that are capable of doing it. So you have to at least bring that presence in long term as Baltimore looks to continue to extend this winning window with Lamar Jackson. So they're one of those really interesting teams that they got a soft end of the schedule. They're probably going to piece together enough wins after the Pittsburgh game to have double-digit wins and probably make the AFC playoffs. But can they win some playoff games? And if not, what they ultimately decide to do with it is going to be really fun as they continue to try and build around their franchise quarterback, Lamar Jackson.